All right, welcome to our frameworking deep dive, brought to you by Custom Case Coach. If you've ever looked at a massive, messy business problem and just thought, where would I even start? Well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you how to structure your thinking like a top-tier consultant.
So let's just jump right in. Picture this. You walk into a boardroom. The air is thick. You can just feel the tension. A huge company's profits are in an absolute free fall, and every single person in that room is looking at you for the answer. It's chaotic. It's high stakes. So the real question is, how do you bring order to that chaos?
So here's the game plan. First, we're going to dive into a real client crisis to see what this looks like in the wild. Then we'll walk through two completely different but powerful ways to structure our attack. And you're going to want to stick around for the end because that's where we uncover this core idea, this meanness that ties it all together.
Okay, so to make all of this really hit home, we're going to anchor ourselves in a specific case study for this whole explainer. It's time to meet our client in crisis.
So let me paint your picture. Our client is a Korean original equipment manufacturer, or OEM. Basically, they make the crucial guts of a car. We're talking airbags, tires, wheels. And they sell these parts to the biggest names in the business, GM, Ford, Honda, Toyota, over in the US and Japan. The problem? Well, it's a big one. Their profits are tanking, and they need us to figure out why, and fast.
Now, when you're staring down a problem this huge, you can't just throw darts at a wall and hope something sticks. You need a plan. You need a structure. And in the world of strategy, we call that a framework. It's the tool you use to turn that big, scary mess into a puzzle you can actually solve.
And what is a framework, really? It's not some magic formula. It's just a logical way of thinking. It's about taking a huge, intimidating problem like our profits are declining and breaking it down into smaller, bite-sized pieces that you can actually get your head around. Think of it like your roadmap through the chaos.
So let's get into our first approach for tackling our client's problem. We're going to call this one the buckets. It's a really classic, solid way to organize your thinking into a few clear themes. This is a tried-and-true starting point. We're going to create three big buckets to pour our questions into. First, what's going on in the wider market? Second, what are our competitors up to? And third, what's happening inside our own four walls? Market, competitors, company. Simple, right? Okay, jumping into that first bucket, the market. Here we're looking outside our own business. Is this just us, or is the whole auto parts industry sinking? Is the cost of rubber and steel going through the roof? That's a supply shock. Or are car companies just not buying as many parts? A demand shock. And we have to get granular. Is this really a US problem or is it a Japan problem?
Now for bucket number 2, the competition. Look, in pretty much any market, you've got winners and you've got losers. Our job is to figure out who's winning right now, what exactly they are doing differently than us, and, this is key, can we copy what's working for them? It's all about learning from their playbook.
And finally, we turn the spotlight on ourselves. This is where we slice and dice our own numbers. Are our profits falling off a cliff in the US but holding steady in Japan? Are tires the problem, or is it wheels? Is one specific customer, like Honda, driving most of this decline? We are on the hunt for what we call the biggest needle movers, the one or two things that are causing the most damage. And notice those categories we're using? Geography, product, and customer. Keep those in your back pocket.
So that's our first approach, all neatly organized by theme. But, and this is where it gets really cool, what if we took those exact same puzzle pieces and just flipped them on their side? Let's check out a second framework that looks at the exact same problem from a totally different angle. All right, welcome to Framework 2, the flip. Now this isn't about throwing out our old ideas, not at all. It's about taking a new perspective, looking at the same information through a different set of glasses to see what new insights might pop out.
So here's the big move. Remember those categories from the last framework? Geography, product, and customer? Well, in this approach, they get a promotion. They're not just little subpoints anymore. They become the main lenses, the primary buckets for how we look at absolutely everything. So you can see how this works. Through our geography lens, we ask those same three core questions. What's the market like in the US versus Japan? What are competitors doing in each place? And what are we doing differently internally in each country? See? Same questions, just a different starting point. And the pattern just keeps on rolling. We do the exact same thing for our products. For tires, we ask, what's the market look like? Who are the competitors? And how are we doing internally? Then we do it all over again for wheels. And again for airbags. It's a super systematic way to make sure you don't miss anything.
And you guessed it, we finish things up with our customer lens. We look at GM and ask, are they just buying less from everyone? Are competitors stealing our GM business? Did we do something to change our relationship? Then we repeat that whole process for Ford, for Toyota, and for Honda.
Okay, so we've just walked through two frameworks that, on the surface, look totally different. But here is the big, crucial takeaway. The real genius isn't in picking the right one. It's in understanding what they both share. This is where we get to the meatiness, the absolute substance of the problem itself.
Because, listen, the whole point of a framework isn't to just fill in boxes on a slide. It's a weapon. It's a strategic tool designed for one reason and one reason only, to help you find the biggest needle movers as efficiently as possible, to find those one or two things that are causing the most pain, because that's where you can have the biggest impact.
And this matrix, right here, this is the aha moment. Do you see it? It doesn't matter if you organize by thematic buckets across the top or by categorical lenses down the side. You are still investigating the exact same 9 boxes. You're always looking at the intersection of market, competitors, and company through the lenses of geography, product, and customer. The source material for this just nails it with this quote. We can flip it and look at a different axis, horizontal or vertical, but the same meanness exists. The frameworks are just different doors into the exact same room. The substance of the problem, the meanness, doesn't change.
So, the real takeaway today is that a great framework gives you both structure and perspective. It's a flexible tool, not some rigid recipe you have to follow. So the next time you're facing down some messy, complex challenge, try to resist the urge to jump straight to finding the answer. Instead, ask yourself, what's the best way to structure my thinking to find that all-important needle mover? Because that, my friends, is where real strategic thinking truly begins.